Hi, this is Jill, and I'm going to be asking Jill, a couple questions because we're interested in your paintings. What inspired you to start painting?
That's a. When I was in eighth grade, which is about your age, they took art out of the high school. It wasn't offered, and my mom knew I loved to draw, and so she looked around for somebody to teach art to my brother and I and my best friend. And she found a woman who had gone to Yale. She was gay. It was very hard to get a good job then, and she was working at the local high school. So she taught me. She eventually we became good friends, and she invited us into the house, and there were these amazing paintings everywhere. And I realized you could be a painter. And from then on out, she's been my mentor my whole life. That's actually her painting up there, a self-portrait. And she introduced me to Beckmann and Ensor and just great music and art and dialogue. So that's how both I realized there was such a thing as being a painter, and she said, "Don't do it. It's a thankless job. It's extremely hard to make money at." But I've managed, and it's what I love to do.
Okay, could you show us a couple pieces of your artwork
Yeah,
if you're
okay.
interested in any, or you're working on any?
I've been working on watercolors from paintings that I did from life. And this, I live in Maine in the summertime,
Yeah.
and there are these woods that used to be quarried out back. They're overgrown quarries. And finally this summer I did my first painting of it, which is a real Webery of space. So I've been trying to make sense of it in watercolors. And these are blueberry barrens and goldenrod looking out over the bay. This one up here is a lily pond that's a similar touching of space, one stroke, for a pad, one stroke of paint for a pad, so you're almost touching space, and it's in fog, so you get this gradated spatial hueing back. And a friend's boat who died 2 weeks after I painted it. It's always been a huge Nobi boat that I loved. And he came and said, "Jill, if you're going to paint that boat in my yard, you better get up here because there's not much time left." And then in the winter, excuse me, what?
Do you feel that ever any of your paintings express you, like in a way?
That's an interesting feedback from people who look at my work. In the winter I do these figurative narrative paintings that I'll pull a couple out. And a lot of people think those are more expressive of who I am. I feel like they're both two sides of me. I really love being in nature. I find it very nourishing and calming. And there is so much out there to choose from. It's almost like I'm a channel for what I'm seeing. So in that sense, it may be more of the world, but I think it mixes with me.
Yeah.
I like movement and vibration and energy. I think I have a lot of energy. So I tend to like being outside because there is so much energy. And on the other hand, I'll pull out some of these figurative paintings. And I also like doing portraits. These are portraits. This is George Nick, a friend of ours.
Cool.
This is Gabriel holding a rabbit we used to have, my son.
That's cool.
We used to go to, have the opportunity to go to powwows, Native American powwows, and I always found them incredibly powerful, much more than I expected them to be. And I started doing drawings when we were there, and I wanted to do a painting someday of a powwow. So this is called Rain Dance. And it's going to be crooked, I bet. Because I don't have two nails. But that gives you a sense.
How long have you worked on that?
Well, these are much slower paintings to do. few days and then go, yeah, I gotta take that figure out, or there's a lot more coming and going of figures and moving it. So they generally will take a month, sometimes two, sometimes I'll work it over a few years. This is the town I live in, Stonington. It's a lot of yeah. Here's another. This was from going to hear music in a pool hall, blues club. I like how you're shooting this. So I keep these drawing books that I'll draw you, I'll draw people on subways, whoever's around. I like to draw. And in these paintings, I'll flip through books that might be 3-4 years old and say, oh, I think I'd like to introduce Joe to Amantha, or have so-and-so in the middle dreaming. And I'll just use those as resources for the material in here. Do I have any more of this up here? Here's a beginning of one, so usually there's a context or some interaction on the street I saw that will spark it. And this one, which I started a year ago, but I liked it at this stage, so I left it. Let's see if we get it here. Oh, take this down. There is a parade for 4th of July up on this island that we live on. And I wanted this to be a 4th of July parade. So I started with the context. And then I was going to fill it with figures coming towards you. And that somebody one year made a huge seagull, like a bread and puppet figure on stilts. And then all these people. But I just liked it open and airy. So that's where this one's at. But you can see I'll put loose glazes on, and then that'll suffuse through later.
Do you have any artists that really inspire you?
Yeah, lots. Well, the figurative work is inspired by someone named Balthus, who was a European. He died a few years ago. They're kind of, because these have there's a lot of movement in them, but they're also frozen. There's often a kind of dancing quality to it and a rhythmic, but at the same time they're very still. And Balthus had that very still, haunting quality, so that's something I'm looking for. I love Matisse, his line, his wiping out, his transparencies, the showing of what his thought process was by the shadows of line. Piero della Francesca is a Renaissance painter that I really love, how his shapes and interactions of those shapes.
Thank you. That's the space I have. But
Good interview. Boy.
thank you. I really enjoyed seeing
pleasure,
your
Diana.
paintings. Okay.